Hi, so here we go. We're going to open up the packets. What I like to do to start with is I like to get just a plain sheet of paper and I like to trace around the shape of the actual piece and do some concepts on there. And this really helps get my scale right, my sizing right, and it means that I can have a couple of ideas before I actually start drawing on the canvas. So here we go. So I always start with the largest element. So this is a oval, which is the cat's head, and then I just add the little cat's ears in. And then the next element I've done is the paw. I've got a little raised paw. It's very cheeky, this cat. And then that's its other front paw, and then that's its body. Oh, we don't see the back legs. The back legs are just in the background somewhere. And then we want really big eyes. We want the cat to have like a really sort of innocent looking, but obviously super cheeky expression. There's his little nose and his mouth. Just adding some details into the ears. What we're really doing is just getting a bit of an idea of the shape that we want to have. There's a couple little claws on there. See what that looks like. See if we decide to do that on our final piece. So we're happy with that main look. Now we're going to go and have a look at the other one. We're going on with a penguin, so a large arch shape to start with, and then in goes his little beak, his little nose, and then we're going to do the bit around the eyes, which has a little peak at the front, so a little sort of divot in there, and just enough room for another set of big eyes. A couple of little lashes down the bottom and up the top. Again, we're just trying out some things. Not all of these elements may go on the final piece. There's his little tummy and his little flippers. Flippers? What are the things on the side called flippers? And then his little feet. Let's say he might have a beanie. That's what we're doing here. Now we're getting pretty close to the top with the beanie, and you'll see actually when I start to draw it on the canvas, it is quite big and I have to erase it and start again. So that's okay. And the reason for doing these concepts really is to get the scale right. But even if we start drawing on our canvas, there's a little scarf going on there. Even if we start drawing on our canvas and we don't like the way it's looking, we can just rub it out and start again. The little cat's having a party hat. I've just decided she's going to a party. You don't have to put a party hat and a little blower. You know, those like kazoo things that the paper rolls out. You don't have to do any of this. You could put other things on there. You could do a little bow in its hair. You could have nothing on its head, whatever you like. So here we go. We're going to open the other one, and then we're going to start drawing on the canvas. So, I'm actually going to start drawing the penguin, and I did it too big and had to start again. So I'll just show you the start of it, and then I'll go to the next video where I've erased it. So see how the top of the arch is getting really close. I haven't left enough room for that beanie there. So that's a good thing to remember. So I'll go to the second video now so you can see after I've erased it what it looks like. Okay, so I've erased it. Now I'm just pointing out there how I need it to go smaller. It wasn't big enough, so I'm starting the arch. See how I'm starting the arch a little bit lower there? And sometimes I put a little mark on there, which is really handy. So the arch of the penguin, which is the body of the penguin, the head of the penguin, starts a little bit lower. So here we go. We've got the little nose back in. So this is everything that we've drawn on our drawing. We're just going again, and we might slightly change little bits and pieces as we go. But the penguin I kept pretty true to itself. So in goes the scarf there. I'm going to put the scarf in first and then put the little flippers underneath the scarf. And then the other little dangly bit, and there's his little tummy in there. The scarf's going to be stripy, so let's add some stripes. And here goes the beanie. So we've got much more room now for the beanie in there, which is absolutely perfect. So that's great. We'll just get those little lines in there and a little pom-pom on top. So happy with that. That's looking much better. And now here we go with the cat. Now I think I like the cat better with a tilted head. So I'm just showing you there that instead of doing a straight head, I'm going to do it sort of tilted. See how it's sort of higher on the left-hand side? Then put the ears in. Now you can really see once the ears are in now how it's tilted. So I'm going to put the paw on the other side too, because that's a bit more room there for where it's tilted. So we can make adjustments as we go, like from the concept. We don't have to copy it exactly. Maybe we've learned something from that. There's a tail. I've decided to add a tail in there, but I actually end up moving where the tail is. But that's okay. That's given me another idea. So here we go with the eyes. We're going to have the big eyes again. And then the little nose and the mouth. Perfect. So she's looking pretty cute. Just going to have a party hat on. I liked that idea. I liked that the cat was going to a party because it's a bit silly. And then I thought, well, there's a space there. What can I put in it? Because I hate space without things in it. So now I'm decided to put a present, and now she's cheeky and she's like getting into the presents. She's not supposed to be getting into them. She's got her little claws out ready to rip that little present to pieces. Very naughty cat. A bit like my cats at home. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start painting now. I have decided to start with the black. Now, sometimes I don't like to start with black because black can be really easy to sort of smush with the other colours. But I'm starting with the black because it's a black cat and there's a lot of black in the penguin. So there's quite a bit of black to colour in. Now I'm putting the black in and just experimenting what happens with a little bit of white around the foot. Just if we do the black front leg and black body, we won't see the difference between the foot and the body. So I've decided that's going to work. So now I'm just going to keep painting black. Now you see I started off with the flat brush, the flat black brush, well that's hard to say, and decided that actually the smaller brush will be better because it's quite a small canvas and I really want to make sure that I get right into all those little nooks and crannies there. So here we go. Usually I outline the area that I'm going to paint first and then paint the center of it. So there is the little paw. So I'm going to go around the eyes now, going really slowly, but lots of paint. See how I'm going back into the paint pot quite a bit? I want lots and lots of paint on the brush. I'm trying not to paint over where the nose is going to be because I think the nose will be a lighter colour. So I think if I leave a little bit of white there, the colour will be brighter. So I'm going to try that, see how that goes. If I end up painting over it, it's not the end of the world. That's fine. So here I go painting the little face. We're going to find the little ear. There's the little ear in there. And it doesn't matter too much if the outline isn't perfect because we are going to do a background, but the background will be a lighter colour. So I'm trying really hard to get my outlines nice and straight. See how I'm doing it just in one sort of movement with the brush? See how I went all the way up like there? So that always helps to make a nice smooth line. So here we go. I'm going to keep the inside of the ears white as well because they're going to be a lighter colour. Now I'm going to put the tail. I've decided to put the tail over this way a little bit. Put that little tail in. The tail sort of makes it look cheeky as well. You know when cats are waving their tails, they're about to do something naughty. Or is that dogs? Just get that little bit there on top of the present. And now here we go with the penguin. So we're going to go in with the black bits of the penguin. You can use the picture in the kit just to show you where the colours are. You don't need to do them exactly how they are. That's just an example of what I've painted. Okay. So you, for example, maybe you don't want a black penguin. Maybe you want your penguin to be purple. That's totally fine. Art is just about your imagination and you just do exactly what you think is best. You don't have to copy exactly what I've done. In fact, you might even have completely different animals that you've decided to do. How good is it? Like what world we live in. That's great. That's really good too. So here I am just trying to paint in just the black bit. So I'm not painting over the scarf. I'm just painting around the scarf there.
Perfect.
And there's his little flipper. Here I go. Now I went a little bit crazy around the eyes. I wanted to make that a little bit smoother, but it's worked out okay. I sort of forgot that her little face is white. So I just was on the track of colouring everything in black and I forgot that the bit around the eyes is white. But I come back in a bit later with some white. See, I'm starting to realise now. Hang on a minute. What am I doing? No, Oh, yep, I think I've realised now. Now I'm thinking, whoops-a-daisy.
Oh, whoops.
What have I done? I didn't mean to outline the little beak in black, but that's okay. We'll just go with it. So we're just going to go round the head. And then when the black is dry later, we'll add a little bit more white in there. So that'll be fine. Any kind of mistake that you may do in these, we just dry it with a hairdryer. Ask mum or dad or nan or whoever's looking after you to help you out with the hairdryer. Just a normal hairdryer, and we just have to dry it for a couple of seconds just to set that paint. But we won't need to do that yet. I'll tell you when I do it. But if you're finding that your colours are mixing, then that's a really good idea just to give it a little dry with a hairdryer. So here we go. There's a little peak of the head there, and we're making sure not to paint over where the beanie is, because again, I want to use bright colours for the beanie. So now we're going to put the little eyeballs of the cat in. You don't have to do them both at the same time. I just happened to be doing them at the same time. You could just do one at a time. That's perfectly fine. So here goes their little eyeballs. Are they boys or girls? I keep saying he and her. It doesn't matter, does it? Here we go. Okay, so now, hopefully, I'm finished with the black now, I think. Give that a really good wash. It's really important to give your brush a big, good wash so that all the colour's off. And see there, I'm really wiping it on that piece of paper towel. So now I'm going to go in with the white. Now, I'm putting a little bit on the lid. See how I put a little bit of white on the lid? Because I'm going over the black that's still wet. When I go over the black that's still wet, what I'm making is a bit of a grey. So that's why I put a little bit of white on the lid there, because I don't want the pure white in the tub to be mixed with a bit of grey. So that's why I'm doing it that way. And see how just putting a little bit of white over the black when it's still wet gives you a bit of an outline without it being too white. That's what I'm looking for. I'll put a little mouth in. And then it's only that bit on the lid that's a little bit grey. The rest of the white in the pot is still nice and crisp white. Put a little bit of that grey white over the top of the eyes just to give them a little bit of differentiation from the face. And we'll play with them a little bit more later, but that's given us a bit of a good idea of what it's going to look like. So that's good. All right, what's next, Sarah? What are you up to? Stop playing with that bit and move on. I'm thinking. What am I thinking about? Give my brush a good wash and a good wipe on the towel. Make sure you don't have any drips. Now I'm going in with the square brush or the flat brush. So we're going to use that now. What are we going to do with that? I can't remember what I did next. Let's see. It'll be a surprise for me too. I'm thinking. And no, going back to the first brush. Okay, good. So we're going in now with that purple. And the party hat's going to be purple. So here we go with the stripes of the party hat. So I don't think I've decided what other colour to use yet. I'll just start with the purple and then we'll go from there. So I'm using that really small brush and see how I'm holding it like a pencil? See how I hold the paintbrush like a pencil, and then I can get really good control over that. And I'm doing lots of little strokes in the pom-pom there to get it nice and fluffy. And we might do some purple string on the present. No, do that later. Okay, first we'll get the base of the present. So we're using the square brush. I actually end up changing the colour of it. I decided to do an orange background, so I ended up changing the colour of this present later on. So if you want to skip this bit, if you're going to have an orange background, but if you're going to have a different colour background, then it's a good idea to do an orange on there. Perhaps you could have a blue background and an orange present if you wanted to, or you could have a purple background and then your hat could be orange. So now while I've got the orange on, I'm just going to do those little penguin feet. I'm just giving it a couple of little toes. You don't have to. You can just do it straight if you like. I just thought while I had that flat brush, that's a good brush to make toes, that flat brush. See how I'm doing it just on the side, using the brush on the side?
Yeah, that's great.
Just like a pencil. See how it looks like I'm colouring? Sometimes kids find it a little bit tricky with paint because we're used to drawing with pencils, but it's really very similar to the tip of a pencil if you think of it that way. So now I'm going in with the purple on the penguin's beanie. Very nice. They're a little bit matching, these two. I mean, they must be friends, I'm thinking. I think the cat is very cheeky, and I think the penguin is a bit, maybe a bit silly, like it trips over all the time. A bit like me, I trip over all the time. I think it's a bit of a clumsy penguin. I don't know why I think this. Sometimes I just make up stories for my animals as I'm painting them. Oh yes, that's looking nice in the present. We are, as I said, we are going to change it later, but that's a good start. Before we do a different colour, we're going to give it a dry though later. But I haven't thought of that yet, so we're going to keep going. So now we're going to do the orange beak for the penguin. That's going in there. Beautiful. And now going back with a little bit of purple. We're making a scarf with the purple. So the penguin's going to have a matching beanie and scarf. And it doesn't have to be matching. Yours doesn't have to be matching. It doesn't even have to have stripes. Maybe it's got spots. Maybe it's just a plain colour. It can be whatever you like. Put more purple. And now the stripes are going the other way, you see, because this is the bit that folds over. So that's pretty tricky. Give that brush, make sure you give that brush a good wash, and make sure the paper towel wipes up the brush handle so that we don't have drips. Sometimes I forget to wipe up the brush handle with the paper towel, and then I get water drips on my painting, and that makes me a little bit cross. But if that happens, it's okay. You can dab a little bit of paper towel on it and then dry it with the hairdryer. That'll fix it. So we're just going in between the stripes with some blue. I've got two, as I said, I've got two colours. You could have 3 colours in the scarf if you want to. Going with that, that's looking cute. So as we go along, a bit later, we're going to put some white in between these stripes. So right at the end, we're going to go through with a little bit of white and do some outlines here and there. So these stripes might look like they're all connecting up at the moment, but when we get to that white bit, I'll show you how I do it a bit later on. But when we get to that white bit, you'll see how the little white stripes in there help to separate those colours. Here we go with a little blue beady on top of the penguin. And they're starting to look really cute. Okay, now we're going to go same colours for the little cat's party hat. But we've kept a little bit in between. We might put a third colour. Now I'm putting some blue spots on the orange. This is all going to be painted over later, but you can see what it looks like because you might decide that you like this colour the way it is. You could do spots, you could do stripes, you could have it as a plain colour. You can use our imagination and do whatever we feel like. Okay, so there we go. So now because I'm going back into the black, I'm just fixing out that edge bit. I didn't wash the brush, but now I'm going to wash it. What am I doing now? It looks like I'm getting, oh yep, I just dried that really well. I'm washing the other brush. I'm making sure both brushes are really washed. So now I've got the flat brush again, and I'm going to do the background of the penguin. That's what I'm doing next. And it's a snowy day, I think. I mean, I might do some snow a bit later. I think I remember doing some snow. So we're going to put this beautiful aqua colour. I'm going to use that at the top. I think I mixed accidentally a bit of orange or a bit of black into it, so I just wiped that off the brush. So you might like, before you do this background, you might like to give the black a bit of a dry if it's still wet, because sometimes it gets stuck to it and it can be quite frustrating. Okay, still in the background, paint. Now we'll see how I'm using the edge of that brush to get right in that corner. And I'm still using it like a pencil. See how it's going back and forth like a pencil? So when I go in there, I don't go too close to the feet because I want the smaller brush to do that. Still going, and I'm using the paintbrush on both sides. See how I'm going? A lot of paint going up there into the gap. Then I'm going on one side, then I'm turning the brush around so that I'm using the paint on both sides of the brush. See, I'm going along the other colours, sort of outlining the area first. So outline the area and then paint in the gaps. That's what I'm looking for here. Same thing with the... And if you feel like you're getting too close to the other colours and they're blending, you can keep a little gap like I've done with the feet, and you can come around with the smaller brush and do that. Don't forget, I've painted thousands and thousands of paintings. So sometimes, see, there I go with the smaller brush. Now I'm going in to get the little bits. So it might be a bit trickier for you to get into those little areas. But it's important just to take your time. And again, see how I'm using the brush like a pencil there. And I'm turning the canvas around. See how the penguin's tipped over to the side now? It's a really good idea to turn that canvas around as you go. Make sure that you've got it on the right angle that's comfortable for your hand. See how my hand is still how you usually would write if you're writing something or draw, but the canvas is turned around. Now I've accidentally scooped up a little bit of the orange from the feet, but you know what I've decided to do? I'm just going with it. I'm going to make a little ground with that. So I've brushed in a little bit of the orange and made a ground. So it's a little bit darker. So now I'm washing the brush, giving it a good dry, wiping on the paper towel, making sure it's nice and dry. Now we go in with the white. So again, if your black's not exactly perfectly dry, you might like to dry it with a hairdryer at this point. So now I'm just going back around that white bit over the bits of the black that I outlined a little bit too much. So if you find that your black was a little bit too thick now, this is when you can go in and add a little bit more white onto it. So I went over this a couple of times and round the beak because I decided I didn't want the black outline on the beak. You could leave the black outline if you like. I decided I was going to paint over it. So you can do that. You can just keep painting over it. You have to make sure it's dry though before you do another layer because it'll mix. Okay, there we go. I had a little bit of black on it, so I wiped it on the tablecloth. Maybe don't, if you don't have a tablecloth that you can paint on, don't do that at your house. But you probably should have something underneath your painting anyway, a scrap piece of paper or something like that. But your mum or dad or nan or grown up will have helped you with that already. So now I'm just painting the white tummy. You don't need to have a white tummy if you don't want. You can have a colourful tummy. Now I'm using that white and I'm just making some snowballs in the background. And I'm not colouring the snowballs in, I'm just doing the outline of snowballs. Because I don't want it to be too white, I just want it to be sort of in the background. And again, you don't have to do this step if you don't want snowballs on yours. Now I've decided to put a little bit more white on the ground. It's going to be quite snowy here, I think. We'll just do some lines and then tap it in. Erica's asking me for something. Can I have what, babe? Food, of course. Yes, babe, go and grab some food. Off we go, doing a couple more snowballs. I've done lots, so you don't have to do this many if you don't want to. Some are sort of half off. See how some of them are sort of half hiding behind the penguin? That's looking good. I'm liking that. Perfect. Now, what am I doing? Oh, I did another snowball. It's dancing. Sometimes they dance. Now, a couple little white dots in the eye to make the little shiny, glistening eyes. Too cute. Hop over there. Oh, no, back. What's it doing? Oh, no, it's jumping over there. You stay there for a bit. We'll go back to the little naughty little cat. Rightio, naughty little cat. What are you up to now? What are we going to do? We just were pausing to decide what colour background we were going to do. So we've decided we're going to do an orange background, which means putting the green in there. See, this is me painting over the present. And then I decided, oops, it's mixing too much. So then I stopped for a little minute. See that? It's mixing because the orange isn't dry. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and dry it with a hairdryer. So while Sarah in the video is off drying the present, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about using these tips and tricks to do more things. So you'll be left with quite a bit of paint after this. So we've given you heaps and heaps and heaps of paint in this pack. So you'll have a little bit of extra paint to play with. So these little canvases, if you wanted to, you could use a sketchbook. You don't need to paint on canvas. But you can buy little canvases like this just in shops around, or contact me if you want to get some good hints on where to get them. And you can actually use this paint and you can make a couple more canvases. So here I am back again. But yeah, just remember that. You don't have to just do a penguin and a cat. This might just get you interested in painting more things. So
you in the zone.
Yeah, just keep that in mind. You'll have some paint left over. So here we go now with the present. We've decided we're going to do it aqua. So we're painting over it. Now that we've dried the colour underneath, it won't blend through anymore. It will be nice and crisp. I was trying to go around the lines in the present, but it was too tricky. So I thought I'll just paint the whole present again and then we'll do the lines over the top. That's fine. We can do that. So see how I'm turning the canvas. It's really important to remember to do that. We want to turn the canvas and not our hand. We want our hand to be comfortable in that comfortable position. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, now make sure we dry that brush really well, because now we're going to go into the background. So because I've dried this one really, really good, it means that that black is nice and set. So when I'm going really close to the tail there like that, the black will be nice and dry, so I won't get any black coming through into the orange. That's the thing we find most in the studio. If we forget to dry it before we do the background, we can see that those colours mix. So please feel free at any time to stop and dry it. Go turning the canvas. See how we're turning the canvas around again? So our hand is in the exact same position. We want our hand to be still where we would like it to be, nice and comfortable, like we're drawing. So we're going round and round, and I'm using the brush flat to do the straight lines. Here we go, all the way around there. And then we're going to get into that little gap. We're going to use the edges of that brush to get into that little gap. But just remember, if that little gap's a little bit tricky, we can come back with a smaller brush like we did with the penguin. So there we go. And we're going alongside. So we're outlining it, and then we're using the rest of the paint on the brush to do the bigger bit. So we're outlining around the shape, and then we're using the rest of the paint on the brush to do the extra bits there. Do the same thing. We're going to outline around the ear, and we're going to outline around the hat, and then we're going to fill in those gaps. So these are all, you don't have to do it this way. These are all just little tips and tricks that I think makes it a little bit easier. See, I almost just moved my hand then and then decided, no, remember, turn the canvas. So it's a good thing to remember. Go, I'm going to follow that tail. Now let's see what I did here. I can't remember because I painted these yesterday and now I'm talking about them a day later. Perhaps I used the smaller brush for that section, did I? Yes, that's what I'm doing. That was very clever. Past Sarah was very clever. Present Sarah is very pleased with your choices, past Sarah. So we're using that little brush for that smaller spot. And we're just taking our time. We're getting lots of paint. See how we keep loading up that paint? So we're in a nice crisp background. Now I'm thinking, covering that last little bit. Perfect. And just getting in that little area there in case I've got any little joints in there. Right up next to the pom-pom. Looking good. Loving it. You don't have to go quite so close if you don't want to. I think I've decided I'm a bit thick. The black's a bit thick on that side. Now I'll give the brush another good wash. And again, make sure that paper towel is getting all the water off. I've decided I'm going to paint his little ears purple. Perhaps I would do a pink normally, but I don't have a pink in this pack. So we're going to go with purple. He's looking like a little bit of a Halloween cat, isn't he, with his orange and his purple? It is the end of September now when I'm recording this, so maybe I had Halloween on the brain. And I chose the colours to use for this. Perhaps I was thinking about Halloween and a black cat. But I must admit, I do like orange. So it's probably just because I like these nice bright colours. Okay, so we've given it a big good wash. And we're drying it off. Now we're going to go in with the white. So remember earlier I talked about how we're going to do white outlines. I'm going to put his little claws in first because see what a difference those claws make? Now he's attacking the present, or he's at least looking like he's about to attack it. He's very cheeky. Just using those white lines in between the party hats. See how the colours are a little bit clearer now when we do the white? Now here's an interesting thing. I put the little eyeballs in and then I thought, oh, I don't like that. He looks angry now. I don't want him to be angry. So then I thought, oh no, we don't want that. Get rid of that. Oh, I'm not quite to get rid of it. Oh, now I am. Okay, get rid of that. Yep. So I think, in my opinion, having it just black with no pupils or no white bits makes it look sort of wide-eyed and innocent. See how the difference is in there? So now I'm going in. I'm using that white on the lid again now just to fix up those eyes. So you have an idea of what you want to do, but my opinion is he looks cuter without the white bits in the eyes, whereas the penguin, I think, looks better with the white bit in the eyes. That's up to you, though. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. You can do whatever you like. Okay, and I'm still turning. See how I'm still turning with that? I'm turning the canvas around. So now I've got blue. I've decided I'm going to do blue ribbon now. So that present is dry enough for me to paint over it. But also, because the aqua and the blue are very similar colours, if they mix a little bit, it doesn't matter too much. If we were putting the orange over the aqua, it would turn into brown. But if we're putting blue over aqua, because they're next to each other in the colour wheel, they're not going to make a muddy mess. It's only colours that are complementary in the colour wheel or on the opposite side of the colour wheel that will make a bit of a mess. Okay, drying it again. And now back to the white. Ooh, white. What am I doing here? Dots. Ugh. She loves some dots, that Sarah. Dots and everything. So we're going to dot, 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 dot. That is a good looking present. I wonder what's in the present. I think it's a toy. What kind of toy? Something with a rattle. I think that's why the cat is... Oh, now I'm putting a little bit of white, fluffy white in the ears. You can do that if you want. I think the cat is interested in this present because it's got a bell or something in it. Now I've decided to put a couple of little white fluffy bits on his chest. You know, sometimes black cats have white on their chest, but I've gone over the chin a bit too much, so now I've got some black back into the chin. And ta-da! Naughty little cat.
No.
It's a cute little naughty cat, though. There we go. Now we're going to go back to the penguin, and we're going to just do those little white bits around the scarf and the hat.
What happens in the second gladiator?
Make sure the brush is nice and clean. See how I'm like testing it with my hand too? So I washed it and then I put it on the paper towel to make sure that there's no colour left and to get the drips off. But then I sort of put it in my hand after that just to make sure, triple sure that there isn't.
Jamie Lannister.
So there we go, around the beanie, fluffy little pom-pom, and then a couple of little lines.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going in between the colours here.
I know the one.
Because I think that'll make the colours stand out more,
It's
that
on
sort
the
of it's
eyelid.
a knitted beanie. And I think you
Queen
can
who
see
wasn't-
here, that's
Again,
what
not
it's
narrowing
doing.
down.
It's making it more of a knitted. See the difference
Yep.
between the beanie and the
I know the one
scarf
you mean.
now? So again, turning the canvas around. See how my hand is still in the same position,
Yeah.
but the canvas
Like
is being
the
turned
arena
around.
sort of thing.
So we're going to do the stripes two different ways here. When the scarf is falling down, we want it that way. When the scarf is going around the penguin's neck, we need to go the other way with the lines. Follow exactly what we did for the colour.
Okay, what's the one of that?
Go. Stripe, stripe, stripe. And see what a difference that
They've
makes.
run out of movies to make.
Oh, I think I've decided to put a little couple of bits of white in the feet. Now, you don't have to do that if you don't want. Sometimes I have trouble stopping. I like to keep painting and keep painting and keep painting. And
Yeah.
when do I know when I'm finished? Well, I decided to put more white in there, but now I've lost his beak. So now what do we do? Still more white. I think I'm thinking that it needs to be a bit more crisp, that
The old
white.
one had Joaquin Phoenix.
And maybe the face needs
The old
to be a
one
bit
had
bigger. I
Joaquin
think
Phoenix.
that was a good call.
It was the Emperor.
For now, I'm going to need to do that little beak
No, they killed
again.
him, I think.
So this is me just fiddling with it, really. You could be finished. If you don't need to
Yeah,
fiddle
I think
anymore,
so.
you might be finished now. But here I go with a little bit more of the orange just to tidy up that beak. So see how if there's something you don't like, you just wait for it to dry or dry it with a hairdryer and then you can colour over it. See, I'm turning the canvas still, turning, always turning. See how my hand's the same shape or the same position, but the canvas is turning around.
Oh, really?
So there we go. Just had a little think for a minute about if I was finished, and then I've decided, yep, I'm finished. There's the naughty little cat, and there's the cute little penguin. Here we go. So I hope you can get some cool tips and tricks out of that. Washing my brushes, making sure they're nice and washed and dry, ready for next time. And yeah, so again, you don't have to do exactly what I did, but sometimes it's good to see how I do it, and then you can take out of it the bits that you think are helpful. Here we go, and off I go.